Hey, welcome back to another daily Bible reading. I was just asking my associate here, Edwin Jones.
Edwin Jones here.
If you can hear the
Jesse
tinfoil
Nelson
behind
there.
me.
You hear that tinfoil? I don't. He does.
Yeah, it must be the aliens.
It's age.
Yeah, or the aliens. But we are in Matthew chapter 10 in our daily Bible reading, and this is a pretty self-explanatory, straightforward reading.
Yeah, it's a strong chapter, but it pretty much is what it is.
Yeah, chapter 9 ended with Jesus saying the harvest is great, but the workers are few. And then we transition right into 10 with Jesus sending out workers. And initially, he's going to send out the 12 to Israel.
Mainly to Israel, because he's sent first and foremost to Israel.
Yeah, the Jew first, and then also the Greek. It's not that the Greeks are less than, but it also goes back to the covenant promise that he made with Abraham.
He'll be working through the Jews.
Working through the Jews. And if it worked right, if he can make it work right, the Jews would be an essential part to the Gentile conversion.
All over the place. It could have been great influence.
Yeah, and they do, some of them.
Some of them.
Some of them not so much.
Yeah, not so much some.
So that's what we're going to see here in chapter 10. So I'm going to read first, and then Edwin will take over in chapter 20, or verse 24. We're not reading the chapter 24 today. All right, so he called to him his 12 disciples, gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out, to heal every disease and every affliction. I want to stop for a second. I know we're one verse in, but the fact that, Jesus has already proven what he did in 8:9 was proving that he's the Messiah. But think about that for a moment, because things that he's done, other people have done in the past.
Right.
A lot of those miracles, you look at Elijah and Elisha and Moses, but the fact that he can pass these on and give them with the same authority over demons that he has shows that he's not just receiving this as a Moses-like character, but that he has the power and the authority to delegate. This is big stuff. Yeah. So the names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who's called Peter, Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot.
Whoa, with a tax collector? What's up with that?
And Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. So obviously this is written, we know, after the cross, and these are written, and you get some insights. John does it the most, giving you insights. We didn't understand this at first, but after the resurrection's kind of that piece that brings it all together.
Yes.
Makes everything Jesus from crazy to making sense.
His last conversation, 14 through 16 in John, he says, you guys not going to understand a lot of this until I come back.
But just bear with me.
Yeah, just
write it down, All right, so he's going to send out the 12. These 12 Jesus sent out, instructing them, go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Proclaim as you go, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Now, if you've been with us in our prophet studies, and if you haven't, go back and watch those, because one of the things that you realize is that the way the Gentiles were going to be saved was as the Jews were on their way to worship, the Gentiles would cling to them.
Yes.
So it's not that, once again, as I said before, a priority in the sense of Jews are better than.
No.
It's the part of the mission and how he's going to spread. Yeah. So, all right. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons, you receive without paying, give without pay. Acquire no gold or silver or copper for your belts.
Now this is on the limited commission.
Yeah, limited commission. No bag for your journey, or 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff, for the laborer deserves his food. And whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy in it, and stay there until you depart. This goes back to our judgment talk that we had. How do you find out who's worthy? You've got to have what?
You've got to have a chance for them to react to what you're saying. And if they prove themselves to be swine, then you treat them like that.
Why do you think he's telling them, at least right now, not to take any money?
Well, they're going out with the homies, their fellow Jews. They would have a responsibility in this Messianic project to join right in. When they go out to the Gentiles, they have no such responsibility.
Yeah. Well, it's like today's world. Someone comes knocking at the door. They're not really trying to offer you a product. They're trying to make money.
Yep.
I mean, and they can try to sell the product all they want. But here, the Jews need to understand that when Jesus is doing and his apostles is doing in this kingdom is not about money making like everything else is, right? But this is about salvation.
It is, and it's about Israel coming together to get ready for this.
And unify. I mean, they've already come out to be baptized by John.
They have.
Right? So we're
the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Well, today, people get baptized, and sometimes that's about it.
Yeah. We just baptized somebody yesterday. You saw that on Facebook. It was great news.
Yeah, it's great. See, he cried. He was so happy.
Oh, man. If you know, I couldn't get him out of the baptistry almost. But,
almost. I thought he was taking you down.
Yeah, but man, the joy that he had.
He was so genuine.
And what you hope is that he continues that joy.
Yes.
And unfortunately, sometimes
people don't.
That joy can be short-lived. So, but verse 12, as you enter the house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And if anyone, and peace, shalom. Is a Jewish custom of your blessing, well-being, you know, that kind of thing. And so you're basically giving your blessing, your well-being to somebody. And he's saying if they don't receive your message, then they don't have your shalom. They're not going to have the peace.
And if they do, then there's a blessing for them in receiving it.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it's not about what they're doing, but the authority by which they're doing it. Jesus is authority, so who they're coming through. And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave that house or town. Thus I say to you, it will be more bearable in the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah for that town.
That last one is a grabber.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the things that we don't think about is that it's not that God's expecting them to listen to these people one-time thing. They've been expecting this. They should have been hoping for this. They've been preparing for this, and now it is here. They're proving all the signs. They're proving everything's being proved.
Get with it.
And if you can't accept it off the miracles and the message,
lo, these many years waiting for it.
And if they reject Jesus,
it's the biggest rejection of all.
Yeah. So, all right. So, behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. Beware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you in their synagogues. You'll be dragged out before governors and kings for my sake.
This is where we're transitioning into the broader picture.
To bear witness for them and the Gentiles. And it's interesting because when you actually see the book of Acts develop, the way that they get into these Gentile towns they would have never gone into is through persecution.
Yes.
And they take the gospel with them. Kind of goes back to your as you are going.
Yes.
Whether you're in persecution, running, and fleeing, the gospel never leaves you. You never have an excuse not to bring Jesus with you.
And the Jews are expediting just by pushing back against what they're preaching most of the time.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, in Acts chapter 8, it specifically mentions that the apostles were not even a part of that.
Yes.
And so, a lot of people think it's preachers' jobs or those kind of jobs to bring it's everybody's
regular
job.
Folks were scattered abroad by persecution, and they went everywhere.
Preaching the gospel.
That's it.
Bringing Jesus with them. And I love when Acts says Jesus just went about doing good works.
Yeah.
He just went about doing good.
You can do that every day, can't you?
Yeah.
Wow. Don't need to buy a kit or anything.
Yeah. All right. So when they deliver you over, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. Now, it's specifically an apostolic thing.
And a miraculous thing. And we have today what that was, so we can internalize it and do it today.
Yeah, it's written down for us. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child, and the children will raise up against his parents and have put them to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next, for truly I say to you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes.
And what does he mean by that?
Well, the Son of Man being Jesus, he's talking about himself. And I think ultimately he's speaking about his coming in probably his death, burial, and resurrection. They won't have
some standing here who won't taste of death until
the kingdom comes. And interestingly enough, this is going to play a huge part in ending I didn't come to bring peace but a sword. A lot of times we take that out of context, but the context here is specifically that these are Jews going out to Jews who, when you broke from a Jewish way of life, you broke from the family.
They consider you dead.
Yeah, so if your family and friends do not receive the message you're bringing, just know
it's not peace.
It's not peace. It's going to happen, but that's the nature of the gospel. Though Jesus provides a new family.
Yes.
Though you leave your physical family, you join this fellowship that we have. All right, so you're 24.
All right. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. It is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher, and the slave like his master. If they have called the head of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign the members of the household? And they had called Jesus that. They had told him that's where he got his power. So don't be surprised if you get the same treatment. Therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. What I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light. What you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim upon the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but are able to kill the soul. Rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. So understand the bottom line of persecution is the worst they can do is kill you. Now, it seems severe, but to believers, that's not the end.
Yeah, that's actually, you're helping me transitional early.
Yeah, you get to the even better stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. He says, are not two sparrows sold for a cent, and yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. But the very hairs of your head are numbered. Don't make any jokes about the hair thing. So do not fear. You are more valuable than many sparrows. You used to have to count longer for your hair, too.
You did say that.
Look at this.
But I'm accepting it.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Because you're looking at me and saying, who are you to talk?
Yeah. Well, you look good with the
I do have some down here. Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, and confess is an interesting term. It means to say the same thing, to affirm.
Yeah.
I will also confess him before my Father in heaven. Now, literally this is, whoever then confesses in me before men, I will confess in him before the Father. So this is talking about Christians and their life and what they're supposed to do, and that Jesus is in them and he's with them as they're going about doing as he does and saying what he said.
Well, even in this limited commission, everything they've been given, the message, the power, and the authority have all been in Jesus, through Jesus, and from Jesus.
They couldn't do anything if he hadn't given it to them.
And when we speak, as kind of like when they were told to stop speaking in Acts 5,
yes.
How can we speak but what God tells us?
Yeah,
I mean,
look.
if God tells us,
exactly.
And that's kind of where we're at.
That's exactly right.
Christians need to have that obligation of, I have this burden. You know, I'm a debtor to Christ. Paul says in Romans chapter 1, I need to tell people.
And there are a lot worse places to be open with the gospel than here.
Hell yeah.
Try it in Saudi Arabia. Back to our story.
Yes.
But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace but a sword. For I came to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be the members of his household. What you just said a moment ago is what we're talking about here. This is Jewish stuff.
Yeah, very Jewish stuff.
Today, even today, if someone converts to Christianity out of Judaism, they will set a place for the child.
Yeah.
And if there's an inquiry made about it, well, that was our son or our daughter, and they're dead now.
Yeah, they're good as dead. And I mean, coming out of other religions, you'll figure, or sects of Christianity even.
Islam.
Yeah. So.
He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Now, Luke, we'll get to later, does the hate, and we talked about that some earlier. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. He who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake will find it. The most repeated all throughout the synoptic statement, all of them share it.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that Jesus is basically setting a precedent that you don't go as far with Jesus as you want to go. You need to go as far as Jesus went. And Jesus went all the way to the cross.
Exactly.
And if you're not willing to go all the way to the cross and willing to, it's not that every single person at every single moment, your family's going to hate you, your friends are, you know, people, a lot of people have this false assumption that if you're not being persecuted, then something's being wrong.
And you can get persecuted real easily if you want to, but not for the right reasons.
Yeah, but there are moments in Christianity where the persecution is ramped up and you need to be willing to go through it. And even during times of peace, unfortunately, in times of peace is where the church kind of sits back and does a lot of hands-off stuff. We get lazy. And it's almost advantageous for growth for the adversity.
A lot of the persecution we have in our culture will be, they will ostracize us.
Yeah.
They will not include us. They will, you know, it's nothing like bam, bam. But that hurts too.
It does hurt. Yeah.
He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever, in the name of a disciple, gives one of these little ones even a cup of cold water to drink, truly I say to you, he shall not lose his reward.
Interesting. The this cup of water, I like that approach because...
We got that in a song we sang.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times we think of discipleship in these big wow moments.
Yeah.
And they're not always big wow moments.
No, very few wow moments come to many people's life.
Yeah, it's just everyday stuff. Bring Jesus with you everywhere you go. And if you do good, once again, in the name of Jesus, right, for the sake of Christ.
Not just do good for the sake of good, in His name.
Glorifying Christ, Jesus is being glorified, then you are bringing the gospel and the kingdom life with you. Kingdom life can only be lived if you're giving the kingdom the glory.
Who did Jesus point to about kingdom life in a Jewish context? He didn't point to the wow people. He pointed to the everyday insignificant people.
And if you're going to change a culture, who do you want? The everyday people, you know, who are scattered abroad, or some people who are so separate from society and they're a select few? Yeah, they have power and authority and they can make laws.
That goes out and in the job, in the school, in the neighborhood, wherever, doing what they do.
Yeah, I've never thought about the church as actually the leaven of the world. You know, a lot of times we talk about keeping leaven out.
It's good
bad
leaven. It's like peer pressure. It's good and bad.
Good leaven. If you want to change the world and leaven the world, go out and be Jesus.
This congregation in Lenore City, and this will be true of a congregation where you are, will contact far more people in the course of a week than we would ever be able to contact.
Yeah, the members themselves. And so here's our bring Jesus with you today.
Yes.
Wherever you're at, take Jesus with you, present people the gospel, and it's up to them whether they receive it or not. Their call.
Give them a good chance, though.
Yep. So there's Matthew chapter 10, like we said, pretty straightforward.
Pretty much.
Very much a specific commission for the 12, but has a lot of applications as we are going out in our life. So we love you.
Yes, we do.
We appreciate you. God bless.
Bye-bye.